Hello and welcome to In Your Ear Radio. I am your host, Latoya. So very happy to be with you again on a beautiful Saturday here in Las Vegas. It's very nice. I don't know what the temperature is, but I'm sure it's probably in the mid to high 60s. You can wear a light jacket or sweater and be good. But I'm in the house, so it don't really matter. But thank you for joining me. You know how we do in the beginning of the show. I have to go ahead and share. So I'm going to do that now. While I do that, I'll give you guys a chance to hop on. Really excited to be with you today. We have a very good show. Definitely going to have a good conversation that needs to be had. And I'm just happy to have the guests here today to be able to share in the conversation as well. But you guys know how we do in the beginning. We touch on some current affairs. Let me just share this. I'm still an analog girl in a digital world, so just work with me. Okay, it's shared. Okay, so again, thank you all for joining me live on Facebook and YouTube. The chat is open if you have any questions, any comments, they will be shared and posted, and you know how we do. So let's just go ahead and just dig in. I first want to give a shout out to the late, great Martin Luther King Jr. This is the holiday weekend. As of yesterday, had he not been assassinated, he would have been 92 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He died April 4th, 1968. But we celebrate his birthday. That was January 15th on the 18th, which is Monday. So this is the 35th year that we celebrate his birthday as a national holiday in the U.S. And the list is long of the things that he's done. He was, I don't want to say just the face, but he was just the face of the civil rights movement. There were so many other people who, without the support of those people on the ground who helped monetarily, people in high places or whatever, that helped to get us to where we are today. We know that we have a long way to go, but we are here nonetheless, and we just have to keep on fighting the good fight, right? Getting in good trouble. Every year when this holiday comes up, I always think about an incident that happened to me. Maybe, I don't know, it's been less than a decade, I believe, but I had an experience with racism in my home. And I always remember this day because I remember having, going to my driveway the day that I didn't actually park in my driveway. I saw a poster pasted to my driveway that said, "Happy Martin Luther King Day." And it threw me for a loop. It was cotton balls glued to the driveway and things like that. And it kind of just was weird because prior to all of this, I kept having weird things happen at my home that I wasn't really paying attention to because I wasn't thinking racism. But for example, I had banana peels in my yard. I'm thinking it was a windy day. It was a trash day. Maybe, the dogs knocked something over. I didn't think somebody was, trying to insult my family. Again, the cotton balls on the driveway. There was one time there was chocolate pudding left at the doorstep. I still don't know what that means, the Jell-O pudding. And then one time it was a raw steak on the windshield of my car. So things like that. So once I realized that I was being attacked and racially profiled, I did get the police involved and was able to prosecute the person who did it. So I did my investigation and I caught their butt. And held this young kid accountable for what he was doing. It's just unfortunate, because by him even putting that on the flyer, "Happy Martin Luther King Day," I have a younger sister who's not quite 30 yet, I don't think. But at the time that happened, she was like, "What's a coon?" So I said, exactly. To me, that meant that he was being taught that by someone older. And I just assumed it could be his family or someone of that nature. But it's still happening in this day and time. It could be your neighbor. It could be someone that you don't know. That you do know that just hates you for no apparent reason, but the fact that your skin color is not the same as theirs. So, we have a long way to go, but, the thing is we still, we've come a long way. If you guys haven't checked out the movie that just premiered yesterday, it's called American Skin. It was written and directed by Nate Parker. It's streaming on Apple TV. I think it's in the local theaters right now, and it will be on other streaming networks soon. This movie is about a police officer shooting a killing of a young man. I haven't watched it yet. I have to get my mind right to watch stuff like that because, as you guys know, if you watch the news today, another Black unarmed man was killed in his front yard. This is just something we don't need a movie for, but the story needs to be told, and art is the best way to express what's happening in our current life. So I get it, but check it out. American Skin. I think it's going to be a pretty good movie. We're still about this vaccine. I know a lot of you are still on the fence about it. I, have decided that that's not something that I want to do, but I do want to thank everyone who has elected to get the vaccine. A lot of, still a lot of conspiracy theories and uncertainty, which is, reasonable. This is all new to everyone. This was like just a whole rush thing to try to help people not die from COVID. So the vaccine doesn't cure COVID-19. It doesn't stop you from catching it or stop you from spreading it, but it does at least reduce the symptoms, and you may have a better opportunity of living should you catch it, just like the flu vaccine. And if you want to learn more about it, please watch Shanta Jackson's live. You can go to shantajackson.com. She had on Dr. Cassandra Esperant today, who went into detail about the side effects, what's in the vaccine, the different types of vaccines, if it affects your DNA, and a host of questions and answers for people who are concerned about the side effects and what could happen by getting vaccinated. So shantajackson.com, the show today was very informative, talking about the vaccine. Listen, people with pre-existing conditions are the most affected, but I kind of want to reiterate this to people because I do hear people say, well, the majority of people who are actually having severe symptoms or dying are people with pre-existing conditions. So I just want to just beat this in your head and help you understand that a person with a pre-existing condition would still be alive had they not contracted COVID. So just think about that for a minute. They may have diabetes, a heart condition, cancer, but they would still be alive had they not been attacked by the COVID-19 virus. So the COVID-19 virus is real and it does kill. So you guys don't lose sight of that. I feel like I'm in a twilight zone. First it was COVID-19. Now we got Capitol Hill. We got this voting. It's a lot going on, you guys. You just got to breathe in, breathe out, inhale, exhale, get through it. It's not easy, but we can get through it. Shout out to Lynn who's watching live. Thank you so much, Lynn. Just saying, she said myths are out there as well. Yes, there's a lot of myths about the COVID vaccine, but we can get through this. We are strong people together. We have gone through worse, maybe not in our lifetime, but history teaches us that we have survived. We're here. So our ancestors made it possible. They made it through, and they made it possible for us to be here. So just hang on. But I do feel like I'm in a twilight zone. I think of it like the movie They Live. I think it came out in the 80s. I don't know if anybody watched it, where the aliens were systemically gaining control of the earth by masquerading as humans and lulling the public into submission. I look at that how I see racism now, because when I think about Capitol Hill and I see all of those faces, they all look so familiar. They look like my neighbors. They look like my doctors. They look like the police officers. They look like our firefighters. They look like the people in public office. And lo and behold, they are. A lot of these people are. They are in positions of power where our tax dollars are contributing to what they are trying to do to somehow just run the world. They want to just take over and suppress anyone who's not them. So I feel like it's kind of like the movie They Live. Like the people that I see, are they really aliens? And maybe racism isn't from humans. Maybe these people who are racist are actually from another planet. Who can really know? Who can really know that these hateful people aren't from here? I mean, it's something to think about. Food for thought, something to think about. They could be aliens, y'all. They might not be humans. And that's why we don't understand how they don't understand humanity and just loving your neighbor and treating people how you want to be treated and respecting people with freedom, justice, and equality. You think about all of these people in these positions, something we've been, ranting and raving about since day one, especially here on In Your Ear Radio, about people infiltrating the military, infiltrating the police department, getting training on how to do what they're doing right now, which is creating a civil war, right? To try to take over whatever it is they're trying to do. And it's not new. It's not new to this country. Back in 1915, I want to say he was our 28th president. His name was Woodrow Wilson. On the debut of the movie The Birth of a Nation, originally called The Klansman, premiered in the White House, the first movie that premiered in the White House where it was open to the public, of course, just white men to view it. And it was basically like a blueprint on how to be a Klansman. And he invited men to the White House and they watched this movie. I'm assuming they had popcorn and it was a festive day and night. And don't forget, when people were being hung and lynched for voting, for speaking up for their rights and things of that nature, there were actually sheriffs present watching these types of things. So this is the fabric of the country we live in, unfortunately, but it's real. I want to just suggest to you guys to also watch Reconstruction America After the Civil War. That'll give you an understanding on where we are. So that is directed by Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. He is a professor, profound historian. I love his life. I love history. I didn't in school, but now I have a newfound love and respect for history because it teaches us, history teaches us why we are where we are now. And it's important to know that we can't just start the story from here or in the middle. We have to start it from the beginning. And it is a painful truth. It is a painful truth, but it is a reality. And we have to, if we really want to change things the way from what they are, we have to dig in, open our eyes, and understand what's happening in our country and why it's been happening for so long. It's very important. So Reconstruction America After the Civil War. It airs on PBS. You can probably go watch it on their website or whatnot. So that's what's up with that. Shout out to all the banks, Amazon, Coca-Cola, Airbnbs, MasterCard. There's so many names and lists of people who are now boycotting senators. As you know, Congress did vote to go ahead and impeach the president. So that's good news. You know, the president is making history. He has made history by being the first president to be impeached in his first term. Secondly, he's making history by being the first president to be impeached twice in his first term. So what we need now from the Senate, which some people are very pessimistic that will happen with the majority being a Republican, is to get this man up out of here. Get him out of office. He's just not fit. He does not represent what America should look like. And he's inciting violence and riots and hatred. Not that it didn't exist before him, but he's definitely adding fuel to the fire. But what's more important to me is that the Senate vote to not only remove him, but to make sure that he is not eligible to run to be president again. That is super important because this toxicity needs to go away. Racism isn't going to go away, but him not being the face of our country, it makes a difference because it emboldens people to come out and just say things. And it's just, we're over it. That's why over 70 million of us voted for him to be out of office. And there was a significant number, I might have my numbers mixed up, but there was a significant number, a large number of those who wanted to keep him in. So you see how close this race can get when it comes to who wants to keep the chaos in and who doesn't want the chaos in. Because I know when I voted, I wasn't necessarily voting for Biden or Kamala, but voting to get rid of a man who was just too toxic for my spirit. Okay, too toxic for my spirit. So I don't know why this is a partisan issue. I don't know why, the conversation is like the NFL or basketball or boxing when we're talking about stats. Well, there's so many Republicans and so many Democrats, so it looks like we might not get the winning to get him out. It's like watching a freaking football game when we talk about a war on Capitol Hill and who helped to incite it and all the facts and data to prove that this is a guy who promoted this. Why is this a partisan situation? So if for those of you, only 10 of you in Congress that were Republican even voted towards this, but why aren't you saying enough is enough? Like, we don't want this toxicity. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you're Republican or Democrat. It should have everything to do with protecting the security of this country. Dang it. What is the problem? I don't understand. I really don't understand. I mean, I do, but that's why a lot of people, when they say the chickens have come home to roost, it means something so different to me now. And I really understand what it means because we're getting to see who our real enemies are and people that really do not like us and really don't have our best interests at heart. And these are people that we pay to be in those offices. And these senators that are losing tax benefits and money from these big companies, this is money they use for their campaigns. So they're hurting. That's why some of them are speaking up now. Yeah, hit them in their pocket and their minds will follow. I think I'm paraphrasing, but you go in their pockets, forget talking about humanity, take some money from them, okay? A lot of these people in Congress come in broke and come out rich, okay? And it's because they have the support of these big businesses. But shout out to these big businesses that are saying no more. We want this guy out of here. It is not a good look to have him in office. And I'm gonna keep pushing. If this Senate doesn't do it, the good news is that I don't know if they moved it to the Senate yet. The Congress has moved the bill to vote in Senate. So if anybody knows, you can put in the chat. Thank you, Jennifer. They haven't moved it. So if they hold on to it, which it sounds like, Pelosi, she's a little smart little lady there. I like her. She's a little smart, sassy woman. if they hold on to that bill until we get our two new senators in who are Democrat, we'll have a majority party. And even if the president is gone, that's after, I think, January 29th, they have to actually do the induction to have them actually be official senators. But that's by the 29th. Even if the president's gone, I'm being told that we can still vote to have him not be eligible to be president, to lose his pension, to lose his millions of funding for travel, and to lose Secret Service. I don't want my tax dollars supporting this man, period. And I mean that because no, these are my tax dollars. You go ahead and be a private citizen and get away from us with that bad energy. We don't need you here. So that's what it is. And I just hope that we see some change real soon. Before we move on to a very, very special topic with my very special guest talking about Alzheimer's today, if you guys are just joining us, thank you, live on YouTube and Facebook. We're going to have a very a good conversation about Alzheimer's and speak to it from the perspective of women who are caregivers and what this means. And we're going to really dig into it. But before we do that, I just want to just tickled me one last story about one of the guys who was protesting on Capitol Hill that was arrested. He's in jail now, and he's saying I heard his mother called or something. My mom would have called him people too, but he called and told them that her son needed organic food. Yeah, her son needed organic food. So, most of us would say then you shouldn't have been doing something illegal if you know that you needed organic food. But listen, there are people who are in jail that have nutrition restrictions, right? If they're Muslim or Jewish and things of that nature. And I think they are accommodated. But more importantly, I just thought about something because I remember my mom telling me years ago that she had a friend that was incarcerated who worked in a kitchen. And he would see the food that came in and the packaging would specifically say not for human consumption. And later on, I started reading articles that also supported what she said, because, sometimes, you be looking at your mom like, would they really have a food in jail? Because you just don't know. You just don't think, if you're an idealistic thinker like myself, you just don't think that people would be that low down. But come to turn out that a lot of the food that is being funneled into the prison system, people are suing. They're saying it has, rat droppings in it, maggots in it. And listen, the Philadelphia-based, Amaret? It's a company with annual sales of about $14.3 billion. They continue to serve up 380 meals a year as a sole food provider to more than 600 prisons and their correctional institutions, despite all of the scandals they get about their food. And it's a private company, so they're making plenty of money. And another note is that a lot of these wardens get kickbacks. They're getting bonuses for money they save on food, for money they save on staffing, and money they save on medical. So these wardens, while other people are losing their jobs or whatever they're going through, getting sick from eating unhealthy food or whatnot, or not getting the medication that they need, these wardens sitting over here with deep pockets because they are getting kickbacks for saving that money. So just food for thought, you guys. But while we thinking in our minds about it, I want to talk more about our minds and just welcome our guest for today. Alzheimer's is a real deal, right? It's a real serious disease. I've had personal experience with my great grandmother, which I don't think I really knew her before she got Alzheimer's. So I don't really know what she was like beforehand, but that's just my one personal experience with having someone with Alzheimer's in my life. That's the closest to me. But just to go over some statistics, between 2000 and 2018, deaths from heart disease have increased 7.8%, while deaths from Alzheimer's have increased 146%. An estimated 5.8 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's dementia in 2020. 80% are aged 75 or older. 1 in 10 people aged 65 and older, that's about 10%, have Alzheimer's dementia. Almost 2/3 of Americans with Alzheimer's are women. And we're going to talk more about that because that was a real red flag for me. Older African Americans are about twice as likely to have Alzheimer's or other dementias than older whites. And that was, something to me that I thought was interesting too, because as African Americans, we are at the top of the list for all things bad. And Asians are at the lowest rate. So I wonder what that's about too. Also, Hispanics are about 1 and 1/2 times as likely to have Alzheimer's or other dementias as older whites. People age 65 and older survive an average of 4 to 8 years after a diagnosis of Alzheimer's dementia, yet some live as long as 20 years with Alzheimer's. When I read that, I thought, do I want to be living for 20 years suffering? Because it's not just memory loss, right? It's health. Your body deteriorates. So you're not just walking around not remembering people. It's other things that go wrong with your body when you have Alzheimer's. So among people age 70, 61% of those with Alzheimer's dementia are expected to die before the age of 80, compared to 30% of those without Alzheimer's. So the rate is twice as high. So let me just go ahead. I want to get my first guest on and just welcome her, who's also a caregiver, and she's also a caregiver, and 83% of the help provided to older adults in the United States come from family members, friends, or other unpaid caregivers. Nearly half of all caregivers who provide help to older adults do so for someone living with Alzheimer's or dementia. So my first guest that I'm welcoming today her name is Jennifer Fink.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I so appreciate you. I reached out to you and you didn't waste any time getting back with me, and I just love you for it. But I was looking at your platform and seeing, just looking at what the messages that you were giving, education-wise, helping people, giving them coping mechanisms, and just, helping people get through it. Because what can you do, right?
It's unfortunate. I'm a huge advocate for family caregivers deserve, our society and our economy needs a safety net for people like me. And my mom passed away this past March, so I'm a caregiver to caregivers now. But if you think the COVID-19 pandemic is a problem, it is nothing compared to the Alzheimer's pandemic that we have now. And that is just rapidly increasing because the population, I think we have 10,000 people turn 65 every day.
We're living longer, huh?
Well, hey, my paternal grandmother is almost 103. So yes.
Wow. Okay. Congratulations to grandma.
Yeah, she's doing okay. Not as good as she was a year ago, but hey, when you get up that far.
Yeah.
And
I know that you come from 3 generations. Well, your mother, she was a 3rd generation. How's your grandmother? Is she having any symptoms or suffering from memory loss?
She is mostly blind from glaucoma. And in the last almost 2 years, she's gotten really hard at hearing. So that kind of puts her in like solitary confinement in her own brain, which is really, really bad. I'm sure people, we've been in lockdown for almost a year. We're like, I'm so sick of my town. I just want to go someplace, anyplace else. But we need stimulation, socialization. That is just the kind of creatures that we are.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure sometimes when I tell her who it is, you have to like literally scream in her ear, which I hate doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes she gets confused, and I don't know if it's because she's not hearing as much as she needs to, or she gets confused. Probably a little combination of both. It is normal to have a slowing of your mental faculties as you age, and we can actually go over some of the differences if you want, and I can address the reasons that people of color have Alzheimer's in higher numbers than white folks like me.
Okay. Yes, I definitely want to talk about that. Good white folks. But I want to go back a little bit. By the way, what city are you in?
I am in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we're having kind of we're supposed to have like upper 60s, low 70s this weekend.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, we need rain, but whatever. I like warm and sunny. So
yeah, of course. Well, you probably got to move, Mike, to San Diego. Maybe it gets it stays consistent in San Diego, huh?
Yeah.
It doesn't get too cold. Yeah.
No, for if you're in Vegas, you can relate. It does get cold.
Yeah.
To those of us, especially because it's humid. So that when it's 55 in the summer and in the evenings, it feels colder. But yeah, San Diego's nice, but I'll take my town. It's okay.
Listen, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. But I want to go back a little bit because I know, rest in peace to your mom who has succumbed to Alzheimer's. I know you use the term memory loss more so than Alzheimer's. But let's just go back to when did she start becoming sick, or when did you start seeing signs and symptoms of your mom being ill?
That's actually almost hard to remember because I know she had Alzheimer's for at least 20 years. I do think that she started showing early signs in the summer of 95.
Okay.
We had a 1-hour photo lab and photography studio, the family together, and she would take orders from clients, and it always happened on Tuesdays, and she was off on Wednesdays. You'd go to work on Wednesdays, you'd pick up an order, and you'd be like, I don't know what's going on here. And I swear it was always the same appraiser. This was way back in 1995. We didn't have digital cameras, gang. So you had to print pictures so they could glue them to their reports. And this poor gal was always she'd walk in the door and I'd be like, oh, it's not done. And it was very easy to dismiss at first because, you get sidetracked. The phone rings, you put the order down. The next thing you know, you've forgotten to put the due dates and what needs to be done. So it was really easy to just dismiss it. I mean, we've all done stuff like that. So that's not necessarily a sign of Alzheimer's, but it happened more and more. And I really wish I knew what year it was. It was after 2000, but before 2005. So I'm thinking 2002-ish. We had employees, and they would get all the orders printed. They'd get everything done except for packaging them up, getting the prints cut apart, put together nicely and put away for the clients to pick them up. And so that's the one thing. She would go in the mornings and she would do that. I think the reason that they did that is because she would get sidetracked and orders would just get completely screwed up. I don't know that for certain, but when you look back and think about it, like, why, she asked them not to do that, but they still did. So there was reasons for it. But one day I walked in the door, or she walked in the door, and I'm going through what needs to be done that day. And I held up an order to her and I said, what are we supposed to be doing for LaToya here? And she looked at the order. She goes, I don't know. That's so-and-so's handwriting, one of the employees. And I looked at it and I went, oh, bleep, because mom's handwriting and the employee's handwriting, not remotely similar. You could have dashed by and just glanced at them as you ran maybe to the bathroom or something, and you would have known this handwriting is one person, this is the other. And I said, Mom, I'm starting to get concerned because you're having more of these daffy moments. Now, her mom had really severe memory loss, and for a long time, I thought it was undiagnosed Alzheimer's. And then a guest on my podcast said, no, she probably had vascular dementia, which it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, duh. My maternal grandmother had a brain aneurysm leak for 3 months. It's wherever the blood touches the brain is permanently damaged. Once the aneurysm was repaired, no more brain damage would occur, but she just kept going downhill, just like somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever. Okay. And then my maternal great-grandmother also had what they called senile dementia back in the 60s. She died before I was born, so, not really a great family history for me. But I told Mom, I'm starting to get really worried because you're having these daffy moments. You used to have a few a week. Now you're having a few a day. And she looks at me and she goes, well, I don't want to end up like my mother. She turned on her heel and stomped to another part of the store. And I'm like, well, murder is illegal. So I don't know what you expect me to do. Because if you don't want to end up like your mother, it's time because this is what's going to happen.
That's a good point. We don't want to end up, like our parents per se, especially if that is, their medical history. We definitely don't want that. So I definitely want to talk about that more and just dig into it. But before we do, I want to welcome our next guest. Her name is Jacqueline, and Yay. She is a millennial caring for her mother. And what really touched me about you, and I just want to thank you. Thank you for joining us. And also, what really touched me about you is I was following your page. It's I know it's called Mom of My Mom, right? And you show videos of your mom. She's so beautiful. She reminds me of a lady that would dance, an elegant, regal lady that would just, just wear the finest. It's just something about her. I just get that image of her, like, just the way she carries herself. But your videos are so touching. Like, I don't know who I'm gravitate to more, her or you, because for you, I applaud you because I see you celebrating your mom and just going with the flow. And it's kind of like, you would do if you had a toddler, like videoing them doing something silly or fun or, milestones. But at the same time, she's your mom and, you're showing in such a beautiful light. And it kind of lets me see that maybe it's not so bad. Are you just showing us the good sides? Because that's all I see, just beautiful sides.
Right. Yeah. So it's absolutely hard. What I will say is that my mom is the second time of me taking care of someone who has it. I will say that I also stutter, and so you guys will see it. So I just wanted to start out. But so my mom was actually caring for my grandmother, and she started showing signs around 2010, maybe.
Okay.
At the time, I was in New York City, living the life. I was a party, like I was
Living your best life.
living it.
That's what's up.
So I ended up getting this phone call that said something is wrong with your mom.
Yeah.
And so I ended up flying home. I flew home and like the mortgage had not been paid for months. The house was falling apart and my mom was just not in a
Is it a cognitive or
space.
Yeah.
So we like did testing and so on. We found out that the furnace was pretty much slowly leaking
Oh no. Carbon
ended up
I can't say carbon dioxide.
And so in 2016, at 28, I think, I started taking care of my grandmother and my mother. And it was, the absolute hardest experience of my life. It broke my heart. I still don't think I've like mourned, but, you just sort of have to like move through it. And what I show is what I show, I'm trying to like figure out how to say it.
Yeah, because I want to know like what gave you the desire or the will to just to journal this publicly, what your mother was going through and what you were experiencing.
Yeah, so I think a part of that came from me needing someone to care. What it felt like was no one cared. And I think people don't know what it is until they see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so showing it has helped like me fix my like, no one.
It's a therapy.
Yeah. However, it's also letting me just kind of teach people and show them that like sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. And sometimes, you know, you just kind of have to keep going. Like what my mom is absolutely teaching me is that you got to adapt. If you don't adapt, it takes you over.
Yeah.
And so me learning to not fight her, but say like, okay, you don't want that. Well, let's try something else has just kind of helped me not get so stressed out. And it's also just kind of like helped me overall. Like I am a problem solver all the time now because I have to problem solve with her.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So the question for both of you, and I'll start with you, Jennifer. Are you concerned about this affecting you? Like, what do you do? How can you be sure that this doesn't happen? Does it skip a generation? I mean, what are your concerns as far as it affecting you?
Well, it's funny if you said, does it skip a generation? It has not skipped 3, but my nail gal, she swears now that it will not touch 4 generations. So I'm just going to take her positive thought and hold it in my heart. Now, there is a secret, and I'm going to share it with all you guys.
Okay.
Diet, exercise, getting good sleep, keeping your stress low.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There we go. We've solved the problem. No, I'm just kidding. It is very important that we take care of ourselves, especially I'm 54. Jacqueline is I hope I got that right, is 28?
No, I'm 30. I stopped counting after I was I'm 30 now.
I forget how old I am too. I'm like, hold on, what's this year?
Okay. Well, I have a grandmother that's almost 103. You know, people are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you tell people you're 54." I'm like, compared to 103, that's still up and still kid.
Listen, you lived all of those years. You better count them. It's people that didn't make it that far. I celebrate them too. I was concerned about asking that because I know she referenced herself as a millennial, so I had a frame of her age, but I didn't want to ask you because I know some people are sensitive. So I appreciate you saying that because we should celebrate our age. That's our life. Those are years that we paid our dues to be here. So yes, celebrate them.
Well, I always tell people I have yet to have a perfect year, especially after this past one. So I just got to keep going until I find the perfect year. And when I have a perfect year and I get to November, because my birthday is in November, I'm gonna be like, oh crap, this year's been perfect. I think I'm in trouble. That's my philosophy, because you never know. It could be something else. It could be COVID. It could be anything.
Yeah.
The one thing, and I don't know if it's modern society, I don't know if it's because we're living longer. I don't really know why we're having so much Alzheimer's. That's for the researchers to figure out. But, we need to exercise. I'm sorry, gang, but we gotta. You need to eat properly and healthy and, the same stuff. And it's going to help you prevent cancers. And, it's just, I don't know if modern life has gotten us into a point where we sit too much, we screen too much, and we work too much and commute too far, and we just are unhealthy. I'm not really sure, but everybody I've talked to about prevention, it all comes down to, fueling your body properly, getting proper sleep, exercising, and keeping your stress level low. The stress level is one of the reasons why people of color have a higher risk of Alzheimer's across the board.
Yeah.
I had a fantastic conversation. He's actually going to be a reoccurring guest on my show starting in May.
Okay.
I have a really good friend. His name is Christopher. He's a brand new doctor of neuropsychology. He just graduated this past fall. And we had this fantastic conversation about African Americans and Alzheimer's. And unfortunately, systemic racism and...
Lady, I'm just going to let you talk, because I was about to say it. I don't have to say nothing. Go ahead.
So, and it's like this, because obviously, for those of you, I mean, everybody's watching, I obviously don't have the same issues with racism that you guys probably do. But just the constant stress, and he was talking about the constant stress, now I'm going to forget the word, but there's like a hormone level in your body that's increased when you're stressed out. You guys and caregivers in general, it doesn't have to be people of color, your stress level is elevated all the time, and then it spikes from there. Whereas I'm pretty mellow today. I don't have to worry about my mom. My husband's out. I think he went to Costco or something. It's just me and the dogs. It's like pretty mellow here talking to you guys today. So my stress level's my baseline's probably really low. Yeah. You guys might have a higher baseline just because of the stuff that you were saying earlier, LaToya, about your neighbor who I won't mention, Second Amendment rights being used, because I don't believe in that stuff. But anyway, it's just amazing. It's like, the brain is so fascinating to me. And I always tell a lot of my guests that if I was half my age and twice as smart about science as I was when I was in school, because I'm an artist, totally not into science, don't do spreadsheets, just not my thing, makes me crazy, I would totally go into brain research, because I really think that's the final frontier. And I think a lot of reasons we don't sleep as well, modern life, lights, street lights on, shining in windows, it's noisier. I think there's just a lot of things we're going to find out that modern life is really not great for our brains. And I can just keep going on, but I don't know if anybody's asking questions or not.
Interesting.
The conversation I had with Christopher, the neuropsychologist, I mean, it was just fascinating. We actually talked twice in the second episode that he's on my show. I mean, it was just like, I'm just fascinated. And it's like, part of me feels guilty, because it's like, geez, could we just stop with this racism crap? Because it's just stupid, It's just, to me, it's the same as ageism. It's like, just because you guys are younger than me, or other people are, it's all a quilt, we don't want a quilt with one color and one pattern. That would be so boring. Yeah. We got to embrace all of the variety and differences. And that's actually really good for our brains too. It stimulates our minds. One of the things that you were asking if I worry about, my susceptibility to Alzheimer's, not really, because let's see, this is 2021.
You're nodding, Jacqueline. I'm listening, Jennifer.
Okay. Back in 2006 and 2007, I went on a weight loss journey and lost 100 pounds, because I had a client, a photography client, who was a doctor. She looked at me and she said, "You're overweight. You have a family history of diabetes. That's on my dad's side. You're screwed." Perfect phrase for her to use, because you tell me I'm screwed, it's like fighting words. I'm like, well, I'll show you. Yeah. And I did. And it was work, because it was not easy to figure out how to find a eating path that I could do for the rest of my life to keep the weight off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So keeping your weight in check is important for preventing all kinds of disease, but there's no cure for Alzheimer's, and we can talk about the very ugly parts at the end.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, it's more than just memory loss. It's really pretty bad.
Yeah, the physical element of it. What about you, Jacqueline? Are you worried? Have you been advised to beware, or are you just, doing the precautionary things?
Right. So we technically, the genetic proportion of it
Mhm.
doesn't affect my family.
Oh,
However,
okay.
the stress of taking care of someone who has it, people who care for people who
Yeah.
have it, like, tend to at a higher percentage
Yes. Stress.
get it also.
Yes.
And so I'm really working to figure out ways that I can absolutely still be there for her, take care, but still take time for
Self-care.
myself also. I'm also
Self-care.
like trying to contemplate if I want kids or, so on. And so it's
Yeah.
all these like life steps that I have to kind of figure out how to manage while also caring for her.
Yes.
And so I don't really think about getting it, but I will have long-term care
Oh, insurance.
insurance.
Yeah.
More so because I don't think that one person should be saddled with the weight of caring for anyone who has it. Like, right now, I honestly feel like the worst thing that someone can do is not prepare at all,
Amen.
because they have no idea the weight, the financial burden, and everything that just like it's all in encompassing.
Yeah, I understand. But how do you prepare? When you say prepare, how do you prepare to be a caregiver, to have a parent that has Alzheimer's? How do you prepare?
No. So seniors
Okay.
should, I think, take out
Medical. Yeah. I understand.
for
Well, long-term care insurance is cheaper, and I think you get more of it the earlier you start. So like you
Okay.
said, you're going to have long-term care insurance. That's really super smart. My husband and I just we adulted, as you guys like to say. We put our trust together. We have investments now, and it's like, woo, we're like grown-ups, in our mid-50s.
Grown up.
Yeah, it's like, woohoo.
adulting.
Yeah, that's what he's like. I mean, it's weird. It was funny that he said that. But we've talked about long-term care insurance, and that's our next step, is do we look into it? But with my family history and our quote unquote advanced age, not that mid-50s is that old, but it's more expensive. And we do have investments now, and one of the things that we're hoping to do this year is, we got to wait for the real estate market to come back down, is we want to buy an acre of property and put 2 houses on it for us and my daughter and son-in-law. My daughter has a chronic illness. His family doesn't have healthy genes to save their soul. So the 2 of them have decided they're not having children. So it's the 4 of us. And it just makes sense to have our own private homes, but be able to be right there. I mean, we're just down the block from each other now, but if we were on the same property, that's our plan. But thanks to COVID, the real estate market went berserk. So
Yeah.
very frustrating. But well, you were asking how
I wanted to
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, you were asking how people can prepare.
Yes.
And one, don't pretend that it's not a problem, because, what is it? 6 in 10 people? I forgot the number now, but the number of people getting Alzheimer's is growing, and you don't want to be in that group. But
6 in 10?
that might be too high, but it's bad. I mean, well, if you think 10,000 people a day turn 65, it's terrifying. Like I said, COVID is nothing compared to Alzheimer's. It's like,
It's going to be crazy.
Oh,
People
I'm
need
like,
to do.
I feel like, I mean, it frustrates the crap out of me that people like Jacqueline have to go, well, do I want to have kids? Because you're taking care of your mom, and I know from Instagram, a millennial caregiver who doesn't work because she's taking care of her mom because there's nobody else to take care of mom. And it's like, I'm sorry, but who decided that people in their 30s should just put their freaking life on hold? It just makes me insane.
It's crazy. It's definitely something to be talked about. I definitely wanted to touch on the fact because I know some people who have a huge, large family, maybe 5 or more siblings, and only 1 or 2 are helping to care. And then you have the only child who has that stress of dealing with the parent. And then you have, I wanted to go back into, yes, just when we talk about how we're disproportionately as Black people affected, racism is a big deal. It's also notated that our stress levels are also associated with financial insecurity, being in the military, just having in stressful relationships, earlier experiences in life can contribute. The earlier you have bad experiences could contribute to the severity of you or the possibility of you, coming up with dementia or Alzheimer's. And but I think it could be Flint water too, or the lead in the paint. I didn't see any studies on that, but I wouldn't take that away. And then to know that women in particular are more susceptible was interesting to me too. So just looking at that and knowing that women, especially over a certain age, when we start to lose our estrogen levels, this reported that causes, us to lose that brain, some of the brain cells that we need to function at our, full capacity. But also what was interesting to me is anesthesia affects us differently than men. So getting anesthesia actually shrinks our brains faster than men. Yeah. So think about all the epidurals and just surgery, everybody, getting their boobs and stuff and all that stuff. I'm just saying, y'all might have some issues a little later with them cute boobs with the anesthesia. But
She's cracking me up because it's like my dad was on so many prescriptions. It was just pharmaceutical sludge. And I also have a gerontologist that is now a monthly guest, I guess you want to call her. And she tries really hard, of course she's in the UK, to get her patients to 5 prescriptions or less. And when she told me that, I almost laughed because I just remember the pill box for my dad and trying to figure out, take this away, add this, change this. When he came out of the hospital, it was like, oh my God, I do not have a science degree. It's like my sister, my husband, and I are literally looking at the paperwork, and it was like, told you I don't deal with stuff like that too well. But I do have one tip, and it kind of tied into what you just said about, we lose because I'm postmenopausal. I could say that too, because we're getting to that age where everybody can just talk about this stuff.
It has its highs and its lows, right? You don't have to worry about your friend visiting you every month.
That's for sure. You
got other people visiting you now, right?
Thankfully, no.
People making you hot and all that stuff.
I've been taking a supplement for that since 2005, so almost 6 years, and it works pretty good. I get a little warm. It's like all of a sudden be like, little warm, move the blanket. Okay, good. I don't get it like some of the friends I have gotten it. So I recommend natural supplements. So
yes.
One of the things that the gerontologist said, she'll be on my show at the beginning of February, is, people get into retirement and they think, oh, I can slow down. I can relax. I don't need to, do stuff. One of the things that humans also need, besides, companionship and in interacting with other humans, the thing we haven't done for a year, is a purpose in life. And, I don't know what stage your mom is at, Jacqueline, but even my mom in the late stages of Alzheimer's was always trying to be a caregiver to people in the care home she lived in. And it just cracked me the hell up because she'd be like, oh, well, if you need any help, just let me know. And I would be like, you can't help yourself, lady. I never said that to her.
But that's what I liked about the videos, even with Jacqueline, was seeing your mom. She was just so sweet. I think one thing that really touched me, though, is she was getting dressed or something. You were saying to her something about, you look like my mom or something in reference to it. And she was, oh, I never met her. How does that make you feel? When you hear that, Are you used to it? I mean,
yeah. So when I filmed that one, that was the first time that she did not know that she was.
she didn't know. She didn't know she was okay.
So that day I like cried all day. I was like, she doesn't know anymore. Oh my gosh, when I think about it, it still hurts, but the relationship has changed, and I have to
accept it.
Like what this journey has taught me, more than anything, is that like nothing stays the same, and things are going to change, and it's literally up to me how to take it.
Yeah.
And my mom is not my mom anymore. Literally, she is my child.
It's like a living death to me when I think about it, because it's not the same person.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't seem like it
at all.
But thank you for everybody who's watching on Facebook Live. I see you. Hey, Albert, I see you, LaBrea. Thank you guys for watching. Shanta. We have two Shantas watching. I see you, Genuinely Posed. Thank you so much for watching Pieces of She. Thank you all. I appreciate you. I just want to give you guys a little breakdown so you understand the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's. I know some people use those terms interchangeably, but with dementia, it's a decline in the mental function that is usually irreversible, So I'm guessing that if you get the right supplements in your body, you can probably freeze it at some point. I don't know. It doesn't get worse. It's a syndrome, not a disease like Alzheimer's. So that's something, but Alzheimer's can develop from dementia, right?
Dementia is basically symptoms. Mm-hmm. It's not an actual diagnosis. Alzheimer's, there's more than, I think there's like 80 different types, but there's Lewy body dementia, which affects people on the edges. It looks very similar to Alzheimer's, but they have other issues that people with Alzheimer's don't. There's a Parkinsonian's dementia. Vascular dementia generally happens with a stroke. So, the vein, like I said with my grandmother, the blood touched the brain and was damaged. Vascular dementia happens because you have a stroke and like oxygen is cut off from the brain, or at least in some areas. What else is there? Lewy body, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. I'm forgetting. There's a whole ton of them, but dementia is sort of the blanket term that encompasses the symptoms of memory loss. Mm-hmm. I learned that from the Alzheimer's Association.
And then with Alzheimer's, it's specific. It's a brain disease. It's actually a brain disease that progressively and irreversibly destroys the memory and the thinking skills, and age is the biggest risk factor for the disease. Eventually, Alzheimer's disease takes away the ability to carry out even the simplest tasks, like going to the bathroom. It affects your kidney. It affects everything. So when I was reading that some people live for 20 years with it, I'm like, oh, Lord, that's torture. What could I have done to live that long? But what it's not is, if you have typical forgetfulness, that's just caused by aging. Saying like, if you have trouble remembering the name of a person that, you pass on the street every now and then, that's not Alzheimer's. The earliest stage of dementia is known as like mild cognitive impairment, where, it's beyond, it's similar to where you forget dates and things, tasks, like how to, you make for example, I had a friend, it was a funny story she told me about her mom. Her mom makes the best sweet potato pies. And so she has her Alzheimer's, but they still were allowing her to cook it at that time. And they let her make the sweet potato pies, and everybody was like, ooh, these, ooh, they didn't taste the same. So they let her taste it, and she was like, oh, who made this? So something like that, when you forget your recipes and you don't even realize you made it, but like, things like that. Those are some symptoms of, on-site dementia or Alzheimer's. And when someone starts to need regular assistance to do their daily activities, I know you were speaking to that, Jennifer, about your mom, and in the office place where people had to pick up the slack because she just basically was like,
When a client called me up and dropped the biggest bucket of F-bombs on me, I was like, whoa, what the heck? I will take care of this. That's when I really knew. It was like, okay, I needed to supervise whenever, I would come, this back in the film days, I would come out of the dark room because I was in charge of making the enlargements. And I heard her just blah, 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 with the client. I'd be like, oh crap, So I'd go out to the front and I'd be like, so what are we doing for LaToya today? Oh, okay. And I would just insert myself into the conversation so that I didn't have to call LaToya later on and go, what are we supposed to be doing for you? Mom didn't write down very good directions. Because that's just embarrassing. And I tried really hard not to, do anything that would bring embarrassment to my mom or shame to the business. I mean, it was actually really kind of stressful. But when they retired in early 2005, I mean, it was obvious she had Alzheimer's at that point. And I actually thought she had dementia because that's a whole other story. But I was relieved for myself because it's like, oh, thank God. I don't have to juggle my work and supervising her without letting her know I'm supervising her. But on the flip side of the coin, I was also concerned because it's like, she's not going to have a purpose. There's not going to be a reason to get up and get dressed and go to work and interact with clients. And, it was like, okay, that's not going to be really great for her either. So it was kind of a two-way street. So one of the things that's really important as we're aging, and we digressed for a second, which is so typical of these kind of conversations, is we need to continuously learn things. And as you could tell from this conversation, my previous life, I was a portrait photographer. And when we moved in 2020, basically to reorient our finances so that we would have a retirement, because being self-employed is pretty much a guaranteed not to have one of those. I kind of decided that I had a studio attached to our house. I had kind of decided, I'll see if I enjoy going back to doing things on location. And then we had the pandemic, and I just decided the hell with it. So I forced myself to retire. But starting the podcast 3 years ago, I have had to learn way more crap than I thought I was going to have to learn. And I can tell, I could have done your portrait. I could have done a great job without putting in very much thought, without putting in too much effort. I could have done it with my eyes closed sometimes. It was just way easy. So it didn't require a lot of brain cells firing up. I fired up all the brain cells having to learn how to be a good podcaster. So that's good for my brain. And I picked up a new hobby last year during lockdown because I had to do something other than work and eat.
I agree. I think that definitely brain games, and I know that we're going to be wrapping up shortly, so I do want to touch on a few more things. I do have a question for you before I go over some of the things that you can do to help prevent getting Alzheimer's. I wanted to ask you, because this was the thing that triggered me to even have this conversation, was a friend of mine was saying that she's seen the signs in her mother, right? She's seeing that she's on onset dementia or Alzheimer's, and she's going to be her primary caregiver. And she has some issues with her now because she said growing up, her mother didn't really raise her, sent her to her father. And now she's in a position to where she has to actually give her love and care. And it's tough. And she has some unanswered questions, and she wants to know, do I ask her now? Am I going to get what I need from her now? Or do I just leave it alone? What say you? Jacqueline, do you have any issues like that? Or
yeah, so my relationship with my mom was absolutely strained. It was strained up until the time I started taking care, and it was strained for a long time. After that, and it's so much easier to know that the intentions that my mom had when raising me were pure. That is not the experience that everyone has. And so I get it completely when you're like, yeah, but my mom, you know, she was wilding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So literally, because I know that my mom's intentions were pure, that is what is like, okay, you're an adult now. You have to figure out how to move forward because she cannot help me
Yeah.
heal what she caused.
Right. Yeah.
And taking care of her has now been much more fun.
Oh, okay. Just because you let that go, right? You just let what we change. Okay.
So were that not the experience, I don't know if I would have taken on the duty.
Yeah.
Literally, it is all encompassing. It takes everything. And so someone has to deserve that.
Yeah.
And that's just, yeah.
Wow.
I know caregivers who have, in the very early, like right when they're first diagnosed, and this is usually spouses, but I think it applies to adult children that are taking care of their parents. I think if you have that conversation with your mom, and I don't know if I didn't quite catch it if Jacqueline did, or you were just able to get past it, you know, and just say, I love you, you know, what was the motivation to approach that question with as much love and like negative zero type judgment, which is really difficult. I know.
Yeah.
Because like I said, my mom had Alzheimer's for 20 years. My dad, we had a really good relationship towards the end of his life, but while he was on hospice, he went back to being verbally abusive. And it's very difficult for me to just forget that and remember the good times. And I'm working on myself to bring up the positive childhood memories instead of always having the negative ones pop up. That drives me bananas because it's not like my life was that difficult. But I think with my mom, she was so good at pushing buttons. She could say things and do things. And there'd be like times where they'd be like, lady, it's just like, you know, like seriously. And, you know, you cannot reason with them because their brains are broken. So if your friend is asking that question, I would, you know, and maybe they could actually get, if you got a therapist friend or just maybe do BetterHelp for a couple of sessions, find a way to ask in a very loving, non-judgmental way. You know, what precipitated this less than ideal childhood, or why did it happen? I'm not judging you. I'm just trying to know for me so I can heal, because I'm the kind of person I always want to know why. Why? And it might help them in the times when, you know, later stages of Alzheimer's and they're pushing every freaking button and you want to smack them upside the head. You might be able to go, you know what? We had these tough times. I'm not going to do it again. You know, it might help orient a different thought process. Yeah. That's my 2 cents. It's about what it's worth.
I appreciate it. So, you know, a lot of people are in the chat. Thank you. I see you, Monique. I see you, Quella. Thank you guys so much for being here with us on the live. If you're just joining in, you missed a very good show with Jacquelyn and also Jennifer Fink. And we've been talking about Alzheimer's and some of the things, because I am concerned about that. I joke about having a short-term memory. You know, when I was a kid, my mom would say, you forget your head if it wasn't on your shoulders. I think she meant your neck, but you know, she ain't listening. So I could talk mess right now, but you know, so I always worry, am I going to be a victim of that? And so I do some research, but, you know, a lot of things that I learned along the way about, you know, ways to help prevent getting Alzheimer's is one way is to, you know, bad cookware. And I learned this watching 60 Minutes, I think decades ago. They did a show on aluminum and Teflon and how cooking these, you know, that's the stuff, the nonstick surface that's in your pots and pans, cooking them at high temperatures brings out the fumes that seep into your food and causes poison to your brain. So aluminum and Teflon, also known as Tefal and Silverstone, are not good to cook with, period. Also anodized aluminum, which is actually what they use to actually thicken aluminum. You'll see that with guns or, you know, heavy pots and pans and things like that. But that's something to stay away from too, because these are like porous things that seep into food easily. Copper is another harmful mineral that leaches into acidic food. So don't buy cookware that contains copper unless the copper is on the outside of the pan or is sandwiched between layers of safe materials such as stainless steel. Cast iron is also a no-no.
Really?
It can precipitate rapid aging. We know we like our skillets. We fry our chicken and bake our cornbread in, but it can precipitate rapid aging of tissues and bring our neurodegenerative, I said it, disorders such as Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. So high iron levels can also cause heart failure. So people who are taking supplements, iron, think about that. It can also stimulate your it can trigger diabetes and increase your cancer risk. So be careful with your iron. Talk to your doctor about that. On the flip side, shout out to, let me just get my chats in. Shout out to Quella, who's saying that, I think she said types of food and Monique, I'm sorry, Americans need to be careful when drinking soda, right? Marquella was saying that as well. And also,
my mom had a 2 liter a day, 2 liter or 4, at least 2 liter a day Diet Coke.
No. Yeah. Ceramic is a good look. So if you're cooking with ceramic, it's dishwasher safe cookware. It doesn't leach chemicals. It can safely be heated to high temperatures. So consider buying ceramic pots and pans. And stainless steel. I swear by stainless steel. Stainless steel is a composition of many metals, including nickel and chromium, which is highly resistant to corrosion and rarely leach into food. And one of the ways, if you still have, you may not be able to afford to change out your cookware if you have the stainless steel. If it's already scratched, I would say get rid of it. And, I'm always wagging my finger at my sweetie because he likes to just grab any utensil in the house and use some of the nonstick surfaces, pots that we have with a metal. And I'm like, that scratches off, that gets into your food and you eat that and you're going to have Alzheimer's. I don't know who's going to take care of you, but so make sure if you do have pots and pans like that with the non-stick surface, like the Teflon and aluminum, things of that nature, use a wooden or a plastic wooden spoon. I wouldn't say plastic so much. And never clean your cookware, including stainless steel, with wool scouring pads, because those harsh chlorine detergents, because that gets into that seeps into your food and your body as well. The scratches. So again, you're scratching that, and then when you cook, it's coming up in your food and it penetrates the surface, and you get all those harmful surface, stuff into your food. No plastic, no silicone, no nylon utensils, no metal. I'm reading here, it says not metal, but you can safely use nonstick utensils by not using those products when cooking. And also, let's talk about foods. Bad foods, whites. And I say this for diabetes because whites equals sugar. That's all that's all, the simplest form. White equals sugar, breaks down to sugar. White breads, white rice, processed meats and foods. So that's processed meats and foods. That's bologna, that's turkey, that's ham. Foods containing diacetyl. It's a nitrate that's in cookies and crackers and candy and popcorn. And what that is, the diacetyl is used to kill bacteria in food. Another way processed food is made, they put in these chemicals to try to, to extend the shelf life. So don't eat foods like that. It can retard the proper brain function and affect your metabolism. So that microwave popcorn, get rid of that. Crackers, candy, popcorn, things like that, and certain medications. So if you're taking drugs that start with anti, such as antihistamines, antidepressants, antipsychotics, antibiotics, antipasmotics, and I don't know what that is, but stuff for hypertensiveness, those are have a level in them that causes you to have symptoms that resemble dementia, including mental confusion, delirium, blurred vision, memory loss, and hallucination. So that's something to consider. And I know, Jacqueline, I just want to say to you, because I know you have to get out of here.
Stay now, actually. So if you want me to stay,
we won't be too much longer. Okay. But I'll go ahead and give you your flowers still. I'm telling you, your mom. Gotta read it because I start talking fast. Mom of my mom. You guys go to her Instagram, Mom of My Mom, because you are going to be so touched. I know a lot of you are, taking care of your parents who have dementia, and it's therapeutic. I mean, I don't have that issue, but her mom is, she's the sweetest thing. I would love to meet her. And I think it'll help a lot of us understand. And I just applaud you for being such a young lady and finding the strength and the will. And you still look good, girl. You still look good. While you're taking care of a woman that you never know what's going to happen every day with her. God, I can't imagine. And when you say it's tougher than COVID-19, I think it is, without even having experienced it to the degree of you. So God bless you for that.
Yeah. So like, one thing that I can absolutely say that I like to tell people is that when taking care of someone who has it, if you cannot do it by yourself, that's the most important. My house has 5 people. So sometimes I work out. Someone stay. Like, forming a community to take care of someone who has it is one of the most important things that I can tell people, because if it's just you, one person cannot.
Yes.
I can add to that. My dad did not accept help from my sister and I with my mom. And like I said, he had chronic disease. He had diabetes and heart issues, and he was a mess.
Yeah.
And he got a kidney transplant in March of 2009 and did not take really good care of that. And a live organ donation generally lasts at least 20 years. His lasted till 2017, so I think that's 8 years. He never discussed what would happen with my mom if something happened to him first. My husband and I and my daughter showed up to their house on November 29th, 2016 to visit, to put up Christmas decorations for them and mostly for my mom because that was still important to her. And my husband walks in the door and my dad said, "So how's the credit union business treating you?" And my husband went, "I haven't been in the credit union business for 13 years. So literally overnight, I had 2 parents with no brains. Yeah. Now, had I known what was going on with him and had we had a conversation, I would have just called hospice, because basically the donated kidney was failing. He had already told me he didn't want to go back on dialysis, which is not, it's a way to keep you alive. It's not really a way to live. So I was completely in agreement with that. But my poor mom and their dog bounced from their house to my sister's house, and all over. And it was the worst 3.5, almost 4 months of everybody's life until my dad passed away. So plan ahead, because, you know, if he had gotten his wish and he had fallen asleep and died, which is when you're dying of kidney failure, that's, you usually sleep more until you don't wake up. He didn't go that way. Shocker. I have no idea what my mother would have done. She would have thought he was asleep. This was a woman in advanced Alzheimer's. She would have kept poking him, you know, what? Lazy would have not been pretty. Somebody would have showed up, gone, holy, it would have been a worse nightmare than we already lived through. So that's one. You know, you could fall down and break a leg and end up in the hospital. You could get COVID. We just had this conversation in my Alzheimer's caregiver support group, which I still attend, even though I'm not officially a caregiver to my mom anymore. And there's so many people that it's like, you know, I reach out, I'm trying to get help. There's one gal in my group. I swear to God, she's getting the runaround. And I don't want to think it, but I have to. I swear to God, she's getting the runaround because she's Black. And her mom is so bad. Her mom is violent. She uses the entire house as a bathroom. They get confused. I mean, I looked at my husband. I said, if we had a dog like that, you know, half the people I know take the dog outside. But, you know, we just had to put a dog to sleep this right before Thanksgiving. And it's a blessing because the dog was suffering. But we can't do that with humans.
That you mentioned that, Jennifer, that is that, I wonder, and I know we definitely need to have this conversation again and bring a doctor on that could answer a lot of questions for us as well. But I wonder, is that the real personality of a person? The mean or the super nice? Like who?
Well, their filter goes away.
In the essence of who they are?
My mom's personality, I would say, was like dialed up, she got very combative and she would claw people. She did not think she needed help, so she didn't want people to help her. And she would get angry. And I think part of it was in the care home, and she was in a fantastic care home. They did a great job with her, 0 complaints. But I don't think they had time to deal with okay, well, Diane doesn't want to take a shower right now. We'll come back in an hour. Or we'll do X and then do Y. They had to be a little bit more structured. But she drew blood on caregivers multiple times. It was embarrassing. And I'm like, my mother would kill me if she knew what she was going through. She clawed the crap out of my husband. The last, time my husband saw her while she was still alive, she reached out and just raked his arm and clawed her. And he's 6'3" and she's about 5 foot at the point. And we were trying to get her off the x-ray table and back in the wheelchair so I could get in the car. He literally just picked her up. She was just like, she pushed his last button.
Yeah. And was that her personality? Was that who she was? Just times 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What do you say, Jacqueline? Did you have that?
My mom has regressed to a child. My philosophical, it's sort of like right now she's getting the care that her as a child did not.
Okay.
And so it feels like she's sort of like living the safe childhood that she should have had. So my mom gets fussy. She won't hit, but she's cursing a lot now, which was she was not someone who used, yeah.
That's pretty typical.
Curse it over, Lord.
Someone had said that in the later stages, they don't remember okay, let me just slow down. They slowly forget words, but swear words.
They cuss more.
They get the attention. It's like when a 2-year-old says, "Oh shit."
They just like to cuss.
So some of the words that stay are curse words.
Okay. They're like the forbidden words.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Cheapa Snow?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw her. She actually came to my town the summer of 2019, and it's kind of tweaked me because it's like, I'm not as, I always, when I go to the support group and there's new people, I always tell them I win the prize because I'm the youngest caregiver who's had their loved one who's had Alzheimer's the longest. Yay, me. So she was joking that the generation that was my mom and the baby boomers that are ahead of me, that, they didn't, we drop F-bombs and we say things that, my mom would never talk that way. And she jokes that the millennials, when they get Alzheimer's, will be to get attention, they'll be like, "Thank you, please." And it makes me crazy, but they're attention getting, it's like if I was shouting at you and swearing, and that's not my normal personality, it would get your attention a lot more. And so that's one of the reasons that happens. But it's like those forbidden words don't get lost, whereas other words do. Right. My mom didn't swear too much. She would tell me things where she'd "Oh, that's bullshit." But that was her personality.
I'll tell you another thing. I remember a lady, I was driving into my gate years ago, and this lady, she drove the small cat bus, I guess, for the elderly women. And she was having a rough day, and she said, "I'm so tired of this." This lady on there just kept calling her the N-word. She said, her son tells her, oh, she has dementia. And she told him, yeah, but she remembered to call me, she remembered, to call me that, and I just, I was like, wow, that's something how certain things go, but certain things stay, it is what it is. Your podcast, were you promoted? I mean, promoted. Yeah. Were you encouraged to do your podcast during your mother's, progressing with the Alzheimer's? That's how it came about?
Basically, I, because my dad passed away, the original plan my sister and I had for mom thankfully fell through because my sister and I don't agree on anything ever. And our aunt took care of our grandmother in her home until our grandmother passed away, which was great for grandma. But my aunt is on welfare because my aunt stopped working and took care of her mom full time. And now she's our problem financially, essentially, taxpayers is what I mean by our, which is why I advocate that, family caregivers need a freaking safety net because, my aunt's on welfare. So we were going to have my aunt move in and take care of mom. That didn't work out. We put my mom in memory care. And when I went searching for information, because I would go and visit her and she'd say literally every 2 minutes, what have you been up to lately? What have you been up to lately? Right. And I would give different answers. Oh, I went to the gym this morning, back in those days. Oh, I went to my Rotary meeting. Oh, I did X. Oh, I did Y. And then I'd put it all together. Oh, I went to the gym and then Rotary. Da, 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 da. And after about half hour, 45 minutes, it'd be like, there's got to be some other way to communicate with this woman. Because one, I'm about to bash my head on the stucco wall over here. And I didn't feel like I was being an effective caregiver. I just felt like I was like, it was like babysitting a plant. I'm like, this is not how my mom wants to live. It was 3 years ago. She died at 77. So she just turned 74. So she was young. Yeah. And I'm like, this woman could live in, like another 10 or 15 years. I'm like, I can't deal with this. So I have like 50 books. I've read all kinds of books. I was doing deep searches on the internet, and I've been a podcast listener since the early podcast days. And I was at the gym one morning and it was like, duh, I need to look for an Alzheimer's support podcast because I don't have time to read all this stuff. And when I have time, I don't want to be like work reading. I want to I'd rather like to read the murder mystery because that's like more relaxing.
Distraction.
There was one. Yeah, I would like to have enjoyable time in my time off. There was.
I definitely encourage people to go and listen to your podcast, Fading Memories. Thank you for even having that platform. It's so important because so many people are suffering in silence, taking care of their parents and not really knowing or feeling like they can talk to someone. And just hearing your stories and seeing how you deal with it is helping me. So I know that those who are going through it can definitely benefit. So I definitely encourage people to go to Fading Memories podcast and check it out. Check it out. And are you doing a podcast now, Jacqueline, or are you just?
No, I'm not in the podcasting. But you can check out my mom of my mom. I got it right. On TikTok, we're almost at 20K now, and so
okay,
that's people good. Are really, loving seeing it, and also it's just my way of making memories. Also,
awesome memories, awesome memories, awesome. I just enjoy it. Before we wrap it up, if ladies, you guys want to say anything else to our audience before we get out of here? I know I just appreciate having you today, and I appreciate everything that you added to the conversation.
Well, I have one quick shout out for a specific episode. If you are concerned you have a family member that might be headed down this path, or they are and you're in the early stages, and I don't remember what month it's in, but it's called the Family Caregiving Blueprint. I talked to a podcaster and his mom. Their family did it right. I swear there needs to be an award for how their family did it. And if you listen, I edited a 2-hour conversation down to 1 hour. So you've got all the super important facts, and it helps with the siblings that don't help because like I said, my sister and I don't agree on anything. We handled mom fine together, but a lot of people react differently when their parent has Alzheimer's or, a terminal disease. Some of them are like, I want to remember mom the way she was. There's a lot of reasons for it. I don't always agree with it. It kind of helps you think through some of those things.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out.
Okay.
The African Americans and Alzheimer's is super fascinating. Even if you're like white chick like me, it helps you understand how like some of our modern life is really bad for us. But
Okay.
there's a lot
African
of good
American Alzheimer's. And what was the first one you said?
The Family Caregiving Blueprint.
Okay, and that's on finding fading memories. And where can they go to get to your platform?
Any podcast player app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the usual. You could go to my website, fadingmemoriespodcast.com. Sorry, I've always had stupid long names for my websites. I have articles and links to the shows and recipes that are curated for caregivers to give people that are living with the disease.
Yes.
I lived through this for 20 years. I try to throw out as much info as I can because I'm not a millennial, and I resisted videotaping and putting my mom out on social media because I knew she'd kill me. And now I'm kind of sorry that I didn't, because I think that's a huge help when people can see some of the issues.
Yes.
And I can tell you, after she passed away, I looked at the videos, even some of the ones where I wanted to choke her, and the photographs that I took of her and all of the things that I did to give her quality of life and joy in the 3 years that after my dad died while she was in memory care. And it was extremely comforting because it's like, you know what? I did the best damn job I could. I did a good job with her. Nobody taught me how to deal with this crap.
Yeah.
So,
That's right. Pat yourself on the back. And Jacqueline, do you want to say anything before we go ahead and close out?
No, I pretty much said everything. You can go to Mom of My Mom on Instagram, Mom of My Mom on TikTok, and it will literally lead you to everything else, which is a lot of stuff. So.
Once again, you guys, I just love and appreciate you for responding immediately once I reached out to you. That means a lot to me because I do this for my audience because they have questions that I don't have all the answers, and people like you can help. So, thank you so much, and continue success in dealing with what you're dealing with. And just thank you. Thank you so much. And I hope that we'll meet again.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us. And if you ever have any questions, Jacqueline, just throw a DM on my Instagram. And
I have so many, actually. I was like, ooh, I need to message her.
That's fine.
So yes.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. And thank you all for watching on In Your Ear Radio on Facebook and YouTube Live. I appreciate you all so much. As always, we'll do this again next week. I have a very special guest as well, and we'll talk more about that during the week. You all have a good evening. Love you. Mwah.